I think as a whole, as this car drives today, I think this would be one of the very best ones in the country.
Hey, don't drop that.
Hey guys, it's Matt from WRX Cult and I'm here today with Sean from DEFY down in South Australia. We're here on the Gold Coast and Sean's come up to check out this number 83 22B, which he has spent months restoring. So we're gonna have a walk through the car and he's gonna tell us exactly what he has done and how incredible he's made this car to now be one of the most, I would say, probably the best looking 22B, certainly in Australia. Right, let's go check it out. Hey Sean, from DEFY, how are you?
Good, Matt, how are you?
Excellent. Now, first of all, Sean, you have done an incredible job on my number 83 22B. But for those who don't know who you are and your history with Subarus in Australia, can you tell us about your history leading up to this car?
Sure. Well, we're very fortunate to have started our business in '94 when the Rexy came out.
Yes.
So we believe our business, S&J Automotive, has grown with the Subaru brand. To begin with, as you know, there were only WRXs and Legacy or Liberties available as far as the performance cars.
Yep.
So we, as each model evolved, and then we luckily got the STi, the 99 STi in 1999, we evolved with the model range.
Yes.
And which has now gone to Liberties and Foresters and even you know, as far as cars that we work on in the shop, Outbacks and all sorts of things. So there's a massive model range and like I said, very important for us, the model range grew with our business.
So Sean, I actually knew about S&J when I was a teenager. That's how long you've been in the business for. Yeah. And I've been following your rise through S&J and the just incredible work you've done within the Subaru industry over so many decades. And now you're sort of transitioning out of S&J into DEFY. So what is DEFY Performance?
Correct. So our business was 29 years old. Our eldest son's 29 years old. And for 4 or so years, he's been bugging me to buy the business from us. S&J, meaning Sean and Joanne, which is my wife. We came to an agreement and last September, we transitioned that over. And we were pretty clear on what we wanted to do. We wanted to almost go back in time and start restoring some of the cars that were brand new when we began our business. Yeah. So we love restorations. We have a facility. We've had a facility at home for probably 12, 13 years now that has a spray booth, a rotisserie, a hoist and a large working area for stripping down cars, a sandblasting cabinet, a lot of hand tools that can help correct
these types of cars. Now, what some people may not know though is you actually own 2 22Bs yourself. Tell us about those cars.
Yes, very fortunate to have picked up the first one in 2006. We bought it on auction, from a Japanese auction ourselves. Didn't even use an importer and got very lucky. It had 11,000 Ks on it when it arrived here. And over the, whatever it is, we've owned now 18 years or so we've put another 8,000 kilometres on the car. We do use it doesn't sound like it, but we do use it. We take it out here and there and it's gone through a few iterations of modifications like you do. You know, we put some mods on it, then we've taken them off, and now, like most people, we're going, it's quite standard again. Yeah. It still has a catback exhaust. It's actually very, very much like this car. It's very, very standard otherwise with a catback. In 2021, timing was perfect again, and we bought a client's 22B that we'd been looking after for 10 years. and he had used it for a couple of hill climbs, but in completely standard form. The car had 92,000 Ks on it and was as immaculate as our low K one, but we still decided to turn it into a race car. It's something that I'd always wanted to do to the other car, so we put a half cage in it, quite a few mods, kept the original driveline, the original suspension, everything out of the car, so that one day when it goes back to original, those mods haven't been raced as such.
And you do uphill rally, is that right?
That's right. So our main racing that we do, both Dan, my son, who bought the business from us, and myself, is hill climbing. That's the main. There's some circuit sprint work as well, but mostly hill climbing is what we enjoy.
Would
going
you say
away for a
that,
weekend.
Sean, you are the only original 22B now being actually rallied?
I would say so nowadays, and you know, that's not something I've done for that reason. It's just
Does it scare
literally
you every time you take it out?
The value of the car, I suppose, is somewhat on my mind, but it's more so, especially now having the opportunity to work on these cars. You know, every day I'm working on a 22B. So I suppose I've maybe softened off it a little bit in the last 6 months or so, particularly since we done your car, and I'm now starting to think that, not for the value so much, but more so for the car itself, I'm possibly going to put it back to original now.
Yeah.
I've had 3 seasons in it, and very successfully. No taps. I did have a slight swipe, just a very slight swipe in the middle of the car, but luckily that particular door had been replaced before.
Okay.
And so no taps front or rear, no big moments in the car, and I'm very at one with the car, so I'm very comfortable in the car. So what I'm going to build is a car that replicates that exact vehicle with that driveline in it, and then we'll enjoy restoring the 92,000 kilometre car, which is number 047. We'll enjoy restoring that back to the same appeal as this underneath.
Okay, DEFY Performance is something that you're passionate about. And I think what is interesting is that you've actually got a lot of history with restoring other types of cars as well. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I suppose I am a Ford man from day one. So I've always loved GT Falcons and Mustangs. I'm very fortunate to have a couple of Shelby Mustangs as well that are very old, 1965 and 66 ones. We've restored the 66, and that's they're a very easy and enjoyable car to work on, but being that another 30 years older, corrosion is a bigger problem again than it is on these cars. We really do love the Mustangs and also the early Porsches as well, and we've got a couple of clients that we've restored their early Porsches. So I guess that's the 3 marks of cars that we love: the Subis, the early Mustangs, and the early 911s. That's just 3 that take our fancy, and we're going to, given that we're pretty much a 2-man show, my wife and I, we're going to limit ourselves to those 3 marks of cars at this stage. I mean, we could, I think in time, we could be found to be doing a Tommy Mackinnon or something for the right client, because it would be as appealing as something like this. But generally, that experience, the restoration experience, has come from those vehicles, and the Subaru know-how and understanding and mechanical side of the Subarus has come from 29 years at S&J Automotive.
Yeah, and that's interesting because your passion and dedication to the industry is unmatched. And I know that when we start walking through this car, the people will be able to see the effort that is put into this car is incredible. But tell us about, I mean, who is your, I guess, ideal customer? Because you've only got a certain amount of time that you can dedicate to these cars. So what sort of car are you looking for to come into your stable to work on?
I guess for the value of, and hopefully it reflects on the camera under here, for the value of what a restoration, an underbody, and in some ways engine bay restoration is anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 for something like this, right? So I suppose it's going to be more like a $100,000 plus car that you're going to do that to, typically speaking. But that's not always the case, because we're working on a Type R at the moment. It's going to end up like this underneath, and we know that at the very moment Type Rs aren't $100,000 cars, but the client is extremely passionate about his car. It come from his home country, so it's not always going to be the case, I suppose. But our ideal client is someone that wants to work with us, enjoy the experience themselves as well, because we like to do some good updates, and I really like that involvement. And trust as well. Just if you know, I guess if we build a relationship with a client, have their car and just work on it with them, and do the crafty little things that they want. Like for example, your car with the catback, that was something that you really wanted. The 22B we're working on at the moment, he wanted pink arms and a pink sway bar front as well. But he wants the completely standard exhaust. So you know, and I like working with people like that know what they want, but also leave quite a bit to our decision making in regards to what's right for the car.
Yeah, there's been a bit of talk. Obviously, I've shown a lot of this car on my WRX Cult channel, and I know that from sort of showcasing this car and the work that you're doing, you're now getting some more work coming your way, which is fantastic.
Yeah, and I think 50% of the trust and the client relationship is already there from the images that are put up, and from the work that you've done, and from you now having this car on the road here in Queensland. So I think it's very easy for us to begin work for the next client, because half of the foundation is already there.
Yeah. All right, well, let's go and take a look at number 8322B and see what sort of work you've done. And look, I guess from the outset, this car really did need a lot of work, didn't it, Sean?
It did. This car unfortunately had a little bit of corrosion underneath, and not just on the metal surfaces. It was on the bare metal surfaces and the sparsely painted surfaces that most manufacturers tend to leave under here. It was unfortunately quite heavy in the wheel arches. So where Subaru, the division that actually did the 22B, turned these cars from a Type R into a 22B, they extended the wheelhouse, as you can imagine. And when they did that, their corrosion protection probably wasn't the best, and the way they went about the process, it certainly wasn't like it was done in a factory. So it was a hand finished area of the car, I suppose. And then when the car is driven on the snow and the ice and salt on the icy roads, I guess those pockets of salt clump up under the car, and it was very, very evident on this car in the rear wheelhouses in particular as to what had happened. It had got into those in between the panels, and it had really corroded the one that you could see, and then deep under it had corroded that next one. So what we had to do with all of the mechanicals out of the car, we had to basically use a Dremel with a small cutting wheel on it and keep cutting back sections until it exposed that next panel, then cut that away and repair it as original. So cut a section out, put in some zinc plated steel and MIG weld that in, and then rust treat it and use copper spray then the next panel and replicate those spot welds exactly. Some of the stuff that we've done there you never will see. But we like to know that the original panel is rebuilt underneath, and then the replacement panel that you do see more of is exactly how it should be.
Yep.
And then we afterwards treated it from inside the rear panels, the rear door card area, I suppose. We retreated it with fish oil in there as well to sort of seal it up better than it was from factory.
Yeah. So
we've confidence that the rust repairs that we've done on this car will outlast.
And it was only a little bit of rust too, wasn't it?
They were only like 10-cent piece sizes of actual holes, but you do need to make sure that you go, it's almost like a biopsy, I suppose. You need to make sure you've gone a little bit further to come back to the clean steel for two reasons. One, you want the rust gone, and two, when you're MIG welding those sections back in, you want to make sure that you've got something good to weld to.
Yeah.
So
when I came to you, Sean, I had some of my own 22B or / GC8 parts.
Yes.
How important is that? And for those that perhaps are coming to you now, do they have to bring their own parts, or can you source certain parts?
Between Flat 4, who we're obviously you and I are working with here, and ourselves and the clients, again, it's up to the client as to what their needs are. Like as you well know, you've got a very expensive set of shock absorbers in this car that you and Kyle sourced earlier on, but before coming to me. It would have been the same either way. So if you had have supplied them, you supplied them, that was great. If not, I was able to get them, but time is not on our side. These GC8 parts are running out like daily. We order parts from our closest Subaru dealership, Java Subaru in Adelaide, and we will order 5 of a part to make sure we've got them for the next 5 cars, then we'll do a couple cars and then we'll order some more, and the parts are gone. So everyone all over the world is consuming the new old stock parts.
Yeah.
So it really can catch you out. So and I always feel that more so than the mechanical parts, it's the textile parts that are going, like say the boot mats, the under hood paddings, a lot of the plastic clips, the inner guard liners. They're the things that when they run out, we're going to have to be scouring second hand, cleaning and reconditioning.
Right.
And some of the 22B specific parts, that's not going to be possible.
Yeah, so basically if you want to get your car restored, get in quick.
Get in quick, but also start coming up with a plan for the parts.
Yes.
And we collect these parts and quite enjoy our little inventory of parts. It's almost a separate hobby in itself, but you're always making sure that you've got enough for, like I said, the next couple cars, and then you get another inquiry and you think I should get some more, and it's a bit of a it's almost a bit of an addiction in a way, that where you're sort of always on the front foot. But there are a couple of good suppliers around Australia that house certain parts and have collected them over the years, and they do charge a little bit of a premium for them, but it's worth it.
Yeah. What would you say then, Sean, is some of the most difficult parts to get for a restoration of a 22B?
Well, the part that we can't get at the moment is those front guard liners, because they are extended by about 30 millimeters each side. So the top sections we can't get anymore, and yours had very good ones of those in it. Yours were immaculate. The lower sections we can still get at the moment, so I've got like 4 cars worth of those. That's the first thing that comes to mind. Like, a lot of the things are the same. So a lot of the things are either the same as even some of the Australian cars, like the underbonnet padding, the boot mat and so on, and they're all still available. The other really difficult 22B thing is the rear disc rotors and the rear hub flange as well, because that's where the car gets this wider track on the rear of the car, is from the disc rotor and the hub flange. So Ali Burrows has new rotors in stock, new old stock rotors, and he actually has the hub flanges remade. So we're very fortunate for people like him as well.
Yes.
He's currently making those front guard liners I spoke about, so he's in talks of making those. So when he makes those, within reason, whatever they cost, they're going to be worth it, because you can't do without them.
Yeah, okay. Well, do you want to take us for a walkthrough, I guess, onto this undercarriage and and talk about the details of the car and perhaps some of the highlights for yourself?
Sure. Well, one of the things is, following any corrosion repair, is getting a nice finish on the car, but also maintaining that factory, very, very hard to replicate, what I call stipple finish. So there's plenty of products that you can spray on that will give you that stipple finish, but getting all of these patterns and I guess tape marks and various things that they've done in the factory would be very difficult to recreate. So where possible, when we're doing our preparation, we don't wire, wheel or strip the metalwork back to standard. Back to steel. We simply try and work with what's there, unless there's a repair area. So up in under the guards where I spoke about, we've done the repairs, then we've blended a very similar body deadener to make it look, the repair look invisible, I suppose. So that's key, is having every mechanical component out of the vehicle, including the fuel tank, including literally, you can call this a nut and bolt underneath restoration, because every single part is out of it. It's all prepared. We can do them on a rotisserie where we turn the car on its side, but to do that you would need the glass and the whole interior, the engine naturally, and everything out of the car to be able to do that weight-wise. So it's a very enjoyable process if you get the car stripped to that point, but usually that's in a full restoration where the bodywork and everything's being done. So all of the work we've done on this car and the others similar is on the hoist. So we're literally working like this with all of the, like I said, mechanicals out of the car. So once we've got that paintwork to how we like it, and you will notice that we do shades of the blue, like it's not all bright blue, it's not all the 74F colour code. It's blended through to the greys and the darker shades and the lighter shades here and there. Right through the tunnel is a grey finish, all underneath the 2-pack top coat. We put a 2-pack urethane top coat on to preserve it for the future. So this will wash and wear much better than it did from factory for many more years. Then it's a matter of, or I guess in tandem, it's a matter of reconditioning the mechanical components in their various requirements to then start putting back into the car. So the first part that goes back into the car is the fuel tank. So that goes up into situ, so it gets either reconditioned internally if it needs it, or replaced if it's too corroded. Goes up into situ. You actually, mate, you had these straps, brand new. They're not available anymore, so it's an example of something that's not available, and within reason, it's a textile part too, because it's got the rubber edges. So the tank goes up in, then all of these, from the diff housing through to all of these arms and links and bushes, backing plates and hubs, they all get either bead blasted, media blasted, some cases vapor blasted, some cases hand rubbed down, and painted in various shades of 2-pack black. And for me, it's extremely important to do it in various shades, because I'm not a fan of everything being gloss 2-pack black or satin 2-pack black. That wasn't like that from factory. And it needs to really, and I think that's what gives this car the very nice appeal under here, is there would be at least, just in this area here, there would be at least 8 shades of black, and then you got your rubbers as well.
Right, I wasn't aware of that.
So that's very important to me, because if you're building something for a hot rod show or a street machine show or whatever, you typically gloss body colour underneath, and gloss whatever colour frames and chrome or anodized bolts, and that looks fantastic. But we're trying to replicate something that
is original.
Is nice and original, and how it come out the factory within reason. Like I said, we've got a little bit more gloss for a bit more wash and wear, and there might be some variation to tonings of how this particular car was, but it's going to be so damn close that you wouldn't be able to pick it. So it's just, and even to the anodizing of the bolts, so they're all gold where they're meant to be gold. They're black where they're meant to be black. That's actually a green-black sort of anodizing that we have done.
I'm going to get this question a lot, Sean.
Yep.
What is all that fluoro paint everywhere?
So we've used our 19,000 kilometre car, which is
Like original?
Yeah, it's as original as it can be. It's like I said, it's had a couple of mods over the years, but as far as all of these components have never been out of the car, so they've got all of these markings on it. It's got these markings everywhere that are just from the factory, where they've actually tightened the bolts. They're like a check mark. They vary in their colours, they vary in their sort of positioning and whether they clip the bolt head or whether they don't clip the bolt head as such. And they actually do vary from car to car too.
Yeah.
We used, for this, we used what was on this car with a combination of what was on my car as well, just to get it right. And there's just little things here that's on every one of them. I don't know whether it's a K or an R gone wrong, but there's a little mark there. There's on these handbrake clips, there's one there, but they only do 3 of them. They don't do the one that's difficult to get to above the exhaust. They do that one and the 2 on this side. All the brake lines have a mark on them one way or another where they've been done up. So
basically it's a factory finish type
it's a factory
look.
finish. It just adds to a little bit extra detail.
Yes.
And tries to represent what we're trying to do here, which is an original car.
Which I think, Sean, that's why it's so good to have you doing the restorations of the 22Bs, because you've got an original one that you can reflect.
For sure, we call it a reference restoration, I suppose, when we can use some originality from another car, from another example. But that is a massive bonus for us. But you'll be surprised what you see when you pull things off. Like this is even on a car that's and other cars that I've seen have had a very hard life mechanically and a very hard life underbody wise and all the rest of it. You can pull things off and you can still see originality there. And I record everything, so I take photos, make notes of all of this. So, and I'll often find something that surprises me.
Yeah.
So.
Sean, another question I get quite often is about these rivets that are found around the car.
Yep.
Now, people think they're not original.
So this is a composite. It's like a slightly different to usual plastic bumper bar. Very low production. Obviously, they're only probably, including spare parts, maybe 600 or 700 of these bumper bars made for front and rear. So they are quite, I don't know whether I'd go as far as to say they're handmade, but they're certainly hand assembled. So these rivets go to brackets under there that go to the original GC8 mounts, so that make this larger bumper bar, front and rear, actually attached to the factory mounts of the body shell of the car. So and the same goes for the side skirts, but on the front and rear bumpers, the rivets are painted because they're painted with a bumper bar. But on the side skirts, the rivets are supposed to be exactly as we've done them here, where they're left alloy like that, because what the process was clearly that the side skirts were painted, and then the brackets were riveted on, then they were attached to the car. So where possible, where the budget is there and where we sort of have the freedom with the client, we want to do those things. It's not of massive importance, but it's another one of those detail things. A bit like the paint markings, when you look under the car and you can see the detail, and if you're looking from this angle, those particular brackets we speak of, we've actually had them anodized in the original black that they were. So we've removed them from the car, done any repairs necessary to the sills, repainted the sills off the car, then we've re-riveted those green black anodized brackets in there. Then we've put new clips into the body and used new anodized bolts. So it just, I think without doing that, you don't get, this isn't as good as it could be. I think that's...
Which just goes to show the attention to detail. I mean, even the things that you wouldn't see is that bracket behind the sill there.
Correct. It's, yeah, all of that stuff's important to us. I guess I think you need a few things in this game. You need experience. You definitely need patience. So, any sort of rushing to get a result is going to cost you later on.
Because I know, Sean, that when you came to me through this journey, obviously we set a bit of a time of, I think we said at the time maybe a couple of months.
Yeah.
But then, things just take time to go through, because as you're pulling things apart, you realise there might be more work.
Yeah.
And I think certainly from a customer's perspective, you definitely have to have a lot of patience. And I know when I entrusted you with this build, it was an unlimited time. I didn't have a time frame.
That's
It was just like, just get it done as best you possibly can. And of course, some of the other things you highlighted too along the way, which was, I think, the gearbox.
Yes. So the gearbox was, it's a really nice detail finished part of the car. There's no question about it. Not a terribly hard thing to do. It's actually really a matter of removing the gearbox and using a wire wheel for maybe 4 or 5 hours to get into all of the webbing, clean out all of the webbing here, and make sure everything's spotless. Then we actually did paint the gearbox in this case. The reason we painted the gearbox is because we weren't needing to recondition it. So if we don't need to split it open and recondition it, then there's no need, we can't really blast it. We can't vapor blast it or media blast it. So we painted it, but that paint gives it more protection anyway. So
I think it looks 10 times better than what it did before.
It's well worth whatever the value of that gearbox. Obviously, we done all of the gold bolts, all the gold fasteners. Again, the varying shades of the black on the brackets. Cleaned up all the wiring. There might be on the, like I said, $30,000 to $50,000 job that this is. That gearbox component, including the removal and refitment of it, might be $2,500, but probably a little less than that, to be honest.
But definitely worth it.
Definitely worth it. Definitely, because it's a real key part of the car. It's a real detail part of the car, and definitely part of the package.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Again, it's great to have great customers that can listen to us and understand that doing all of this without doing something like that is not going to give the same result. So,
yeah.
I think that's where we are in a very fortunate position. All the clients that we have currently are like yourself. They're very easy to work with, and they enjoy the process. And I think that's key. Yeah,
it's great. Was there anything else that you wanted to say, Sean, about this 22? Because I know, actually, I'll lead you into this one, because you did say you've seen a lot of 22Bs in your time. And where did you actually rate this car now in the scheme of things?
Certainly now, I don't know of another one under the car, underbody as such, that would be as good as this. I could pretty comfortably say that, even though the couple of very low kilometre ones, including my own, are nowhere near the condition of this car underneath. And that includes mechanically too, because this car has all new wheel bearings and brand new brakes all round, and new CV, or reconditioned CV shafts. So this car is in very, very good order. But despite the rust, there were quite a few things about this car that were very, very original and very, very good condition. You know, the body is in quite good order. There were just so many parts we pulled off that had never been pulled off. So it hasn't had lots of swaps and all the rest of it. So I think as a whole, as this car drives today, I think this would be one of the very best ones in the country. There's obviously a couple with Subaru. There's one with Subaru. There's another very low kilometre one that's been housed all its life. So I guess for originality and low kilometres, those two might beat yours. But as far none of them will look like this underneath. And I think otherwise, I think this would be one of the very best ones in the country. Yeah,
and for those that are checking this car out, keep in mind this exhaust is probably the only part on the car, would you say, Sean, that's not original? Because we went with this HKS exhaust system. And could we have gone with an original if we wanted to?
Absolutely, we could have, because the hardest part to get original is the actual dump pipe. It's very specific for the Japanese Type R. So, and the condition of the dump pipe deteriorates much quicker than the condition of the rest of the exhaust. The rest of the exhaust, when you find a second-hand one, it's just man hours to bring it back. And those rear mufflers for the 22B are the same as our Australian delivered 99 and 00 STi mufflers. So they are around, and I'm collecting them.
Yeah, okay. But I will say that was my choice.
Yes.
You know, I wanted to keep the HKS on there.
Yeah, but I think this is a perfect balance of having the detail of the factory exhaust, the factory dump pipe there, which is, you know, quite a complex part. And underneath the front shield here, you've got all original manifolds and everything leading up to that. Original turbocharger, and I think to have literally a bolt on something that's half an hour to change on a car. You know, so at any point you could yourself collect. In fact, one or two of your other cars have probably got those rear exhausts that would match this car. So at some point, if you wanted to come to Flat 4 on a Saturday and bolt on your original exhaust, you could do so.
You could. All right, Sean, tell us what you did in the engine bay restoration.
So you supplied me a Nully Burrows manifold, which he has 98 STi, which are the same as 22B manifolds recoated. So he sent you over a manifold, you supplied it to me. Yours was heavily peeling, like most STIs of this era. So that prompted us to want to delve into your engine without pulling your engine out. So the car is, you know, the engine ran well, so there was no need to extract it from the car. So we pulled off everything from the cylinder heads up. So all of these components here were pulled off of the car. We probably spent 7 or 8 hours on the top of the block, cleaning the top of the block just from the salt and the corrosion and so on. And none of it was damaging, but it was just very sort of corroded looking. So we cleaned that up. We assembled the manifold with all of the correct color fasteners. Again, gold where it's meant to be gold, black where it's meant to be black, stainless. So that contrast is extremely important to get right. We re-anodized the fuel rails down there. You'll see the fuel rails, we re-anodized them in silver. So you get silver anodizing, gold anodizing, black anodizing. I think you supplied, from memory, you supplied a new header tank, which is still available from Subaru. So it was a matter of... Yes, we did. We touched, I think Flat 4 had replaced the radiator. And then so when we had it out to do other work, because we'd done some front bumper bar work, when we had the radiator out, we just repainted, perhaps, I think it might have been the fans or the top section.
You did the detail too, right on this front grille mesh as well, which was actually peeling.
Yep.
And you've obviously taken a great care to remove that.
Yep.
And I noticed also too
with the rivets as well.
Yep. So same thing. They're supposed to be blue, and some cars have these silver, some cars have these blue. It seems to vary across the cars. My two cars are different to each other in that area. So the engine side of things wasn't terribly difficult. It was very original under here, so it was a matter of just cleaning, detailing, repainting where necessary, putting all the correct markings on and reassembling. And there were quite a few new components, whether they be gaskets or rubber hoses and so on. Done a couple of hoses through to here. but the rest of it is quite original. I think you might have straightened some of the fins. We straightened a few more.
Yes.
Could probably have another 8 or 10 hours spent straightening the rest of them at some point.
Yeah, maybe.
But
This was replaced too,
yeah, the underbonnet padding. I believe, from memory, this was cleaned up, not replaced, because it was actually quite good. Again, correct nuts everywhere, correct fasteners. You supplied a couple of new bolts here, so we put them in.
Extraordinary work. It looks so good.
Very, very happy with it, that's for sure. And she drives beautifully too.
Well, guys, there you have it. I've just had Sean from DEFY Performance walk us through that whole car. I just want to say a big shout out and thank you to himself and also his wife Jo for the amount of work they put into this car. It's truly extraordinary, and keeping one of these 22Bs, the most iconic Subaru in the world, now safe and sound into the future. All right, take care.